Shalom, this is Daniel John Lee with Torah Restoration Ministries, and this is irrefutable proof that evolution is a myth. Continuing in my series of providing proof to, if you're an atheist, an agnostic, a skeptic, a pagan, just an unbeliever, anyone who does not accept Yahshua as king, this is another video for that series. And also any believers who listen to this, you can share this with friends or family. This is dealing with the subject of evolution. I'm not talking about microevolution, okay, so slight variations within species, but macroevolution, where one species transforms into another. That we can go from a fish to a mammal to a human. I mean, it's just that type of ridiculous nonsense. And we're going to discuss a idea that has been brought up within the movement of intelligent design, and that is irreducible complexity. So we're going to make this very simple. We talk about a human eyeball. The human eyeball has over 200 different intricate components. Without any one of those components, the eyeball would not function. It would not allow us to see the way we see and perceive things around us. So how could something like an eyeball evolve? Because it's irreducibly complex. In other words, it needs all 200 of those, or 200 plus of those individual components to make up the eyeball. Now, the only way the evolutionist has been able to respond to this argument is they say, oh, no, the eyeball could have evolved. It could have started off as just like a simple light-sensitive spot, and then it eventually evolved into what we have as the human eyeball today. But there's a major problem with that argument. And this is the only argument the evolutionist has for this. And here's the problem for that evolutionistic argument. Even a simple light-sensitive spot, okay, like the most simplest form of an eye you can think of, requires a dazzling array of biochemicals in the right place and time to function. There's a biochemist by the name of Michael Behe. In fact, I was able to actually see this man in person and hear him lecture when I attended a university here in Oregon, Gutenberg University, back when I was in college. And he states this, I'm going to quote him, he states that each of the light-sensitive spot cells makes the complexity of a motorcycle or television set look paltry in comparison. Now, he goes into some sort of technical explanation about what's involved when light strikes a retina and a photon interacts and all the things that go on with an eyeball. But basically, he's showing that even with the most basic form of an eye, it requires an immense amount of complexity that cannot be explained by time, chance, and matter just sort of happening to form it. I mean, that's a fairy tale. That's myth. It had to have been designed by an intelligent designer. A transparent layer is also far more difficult to obtain than the researchers think. This is talking about the layer that covers the eye. The best explanation for the cornea's transparency is diffraction theory, which shows that light is not scattered if the refractive index doesn't vary over distances more than half the wavelength of light. This in turn requires a certain very finely organized structure of the corneal fibers, which in turn requires complicated chemical pumps to make sure there is exactly the right water content. I mean, this is obviously the product of an intelligent designer. So even the most simplest form of an eye cannot be explained by the random chances of macroevolution. Another really good argument that is related to the idea of irreducible complexity is the DNA strand. Of course, we know the DNA strand contains a lot of different genetic information. That genetic information has to be put just in the right sequence in order for it to produce life. And whenever we see information put in a specific sequence, we automatically attribute that to intelligent design. If we say writing, on a book, when the researchers and archaeologists, when they discovered the Rosetta Stone, okay, and the Rosetta Stone, of course, has those 3 different types of languages on it. They didn't say, oh, look at how, water and wind erosion just formed these characters. No, of course, they assumed the Rosetta Stone was chiseled and made by people who were recording different languages. And this is just sort of intuitive, the intuitive assumption that we all make as humans. When we see information that's put in a specific sequence, we know it has an intelligent designer behind it. And that is exactly the case with the DNA strand. So these two very, very simple arguments can easily shatter this idea of macroevolution, of Darwinianism evolution, that time, chance, and matter just sort of haphazardly put it together. There's no way that could have happened. And of course, if you want to know who the intelligent designer is, go to my other videos, Irrefutable Proof that Yahshua, Jesus, rose from the grave. And you'll see who that intelligent designer is. This is Daniel John Lee. The website is www.spiritandtorah.com. Shalom.